Good morning, everyone. True Zero Emissions here. So right now I'm training for, what is it called? It's embarrassing. As one of my teachers once said, I don't remember anything. My favorite teacher too. He said, I don't remember anything. So how do you teach, right? Think about that. How do you teach if you don't remember anything? Isn't that interesting? Now, obviously, he didn't mean he doesn't remember anything. And you'd have to ask him in particular to ask him how he understands that. There's an event coming up. I think Roger EUC is the creator or part of the in one of the positions of organization of the event. And I think it's this month. I don't know the exact date. And what is it called? There's so many. Part of the reason I'm getting confused on the name is because there's so many. I'm hearing about all these different events that are throughout the year for electric unicycles. And really, I think micromobility in many ways, like just all these different ways of travel, whether it be one wheel or two wheels. Okay, my football rib cage protector is a little bit too tight. I'm wearing a small rib cage protector, or is it small? I think it's small, and I'm probably more of like a large or a medium. I'm waiting for my new chest protector to arrive, and I think it comes in about 7. Well, it says around the 7th, so sometime the week of 7 or thereafter, shortly thereafter. And I'm going to think about the time right now. It's almost 4 a.m. and I'm thinking, do I want to go on the bike path or do I want to go toward Griffith Park? Because the traffic starts increasing significantly as the morning becomes later and later. We just did a really big ride. It was about 75 miles. It was listed as 65 miles, but I'm happy to say we went over that. It was a mutual agreement among everyone. We all just wanted to keep going. That was the vibe that I felt. Is that we all just wanted to keep exploring. We went Ventura to Santa Barbara and back. Vanessa and Victor hosted the event. It was a great ride. I thought there would only be a couple people going to that event, to that ride, and there was a lot more than a couple people there, which was great. I thought, if just a couple people show up, I'm still going to have a lot of fun. And the fact that a lot of people showed up, like, I think was it around 10 people or more? People joined the ride, people met us there. It was really great. It's kind of amazing how a community can find you. This all began with, I was buying a charger. Well, here's how, if I back up way back to the very beginning. I always was interested in electric unicycles, just like people are. If you see people or yourself, you're like, oh, what is that? That's interesting. You don't know what it is yet, maybe. I was doing that. I was riding scooters. I had a Dualtron, I think it was called a Compact, solid tires. I was so happy that I never got flat tires on it. A little bit of a rough ride, but they also make solid tires. I don't mean for that, but their solid tires are made that handle really, really well. They actually can replicate an exact PSI and a specific tire characteristics when you ask for that kind of specificity. And if a company that makes something that you like doesn't make the tire yet, you can request that, because manufacturers tell me they want to know what customers are thinking about. I think this truck's waiting for me. That was nice. When he nodded to me, tilted his head down, I knew it was okay to go. If he doesn't nod, I don't know if it just looks like they're looking at me, right? So it was nice to get the confirmation. There is extremely courteous people, and there's also people that will run you over in the road. And you just have to watch out for that. There's people that like getting close to bicycles and close to electric unicycles. They'll get right up next to you on a car. There's a person. I'm gonna go on the street when this car passes. I'll just go right here. Okay. One of the great feelings of riding an electric unicycle is that as you practice, for example, I'm speaking about myself, but I've heard others say this too, your legs will not burn and hurt as much, because in the beginning, oh my goodness, it is painful. And especially if you have injuries, which I have many injuries, then that it just compounds everything, right? Meaning it just, not sure that's the right word to use, but it's like it adds to the the pain. But I am going to physical therapy, and I actually had some inserts made for my shoes, specifically for my foot. They took a picture of the bottom of my feet, and they actually designed, which I think is like a printing process. It might be like a 3-dimensional print, but confirm that for yourself. They made a mold for my feet. They used to make a mold, okay? Now I don't think they do. I think it goes directly from the picture that they take to printing or making something for your foot specifically. It's made a difference because what it does is it distributes the pressure of weight of the body, which I weigh 180 pounds. Even though the doctor doesn't believe that. She's like, what? But it's probably because muscle weighs more than fat, right? So if you have a lot of muscle, and I'm not saying I do, but I have exercised ever since I was a kid. I used to do push-ups and sit-ups when I was like 2. As soon as I could move and understood what exercise was, I was doing all those things. Because I know that we live in a body, and the healthier our body is the better chance we have of living a longer, healthier life. But we have to eat healthy too. And I'm not saying I eat the healthiest either, but that's something that I am interested in. Okay, I'm gonna practice my turns right now. I like practicing my sharp turns like this. Let me turn my light off though. But it is nice that the body is always adjusting to what we're doing, right? One of the interesting versions of that, if I say it that way, is when I was a kid and I used to ride my dirt bike in the mountains, because we had property in the mountains in up in Angeles Crest area, up there in California. And I used to ride my dirt bike up in the mountains up there. And I noticed that if I rode, after riding for a couple hours, I don't know if this still happens, but when I was a kid it did. Meaning I was around 10. So if I'm riding for a long time, have you ever stopped and then everything keeps coming toward you? And then resets and comes toward you, and then resets. When I say resets, it goes close and then far, and then close and then far real quick. It'll go far. It's like zooming in slowly and then zooming out really quick, like boom, and then resetting. I don't know. Others have told me they've felt that too and experienced that. I'm sure there's a word for it, and I'm just guessing it's because the brain is trying to take that motion of continuous coming toward us, and it's trying to make that like zero. It's saying, let's make movement non-movement almost, right? Like it's adjusting. I don't know. I'm just making that up right now. I'm trying to describe, I'm making up a story to describe my experience. I don't actually know what's happening, but that's what I think was happening. That's what I think I was experiencing. So I've put my tire repair kit on the EUC on the back, and I've put my stock charger, which I'm thinking right now my mind is on what is the absolute smallest 15 amp charger that can be possibly made. Right now we know Donald Lee Smith, here's a book, Magnetic Resonance Energy Crafting Systematic Index book, that's standard reading for anyone interested in learning about electricity and following the lines of Nikola Tesla, which some people call free energy, but those are just words. We're talking about extremely efficient access of the energy in the universe, which is energy in part from the sun, right? The idea that Don said, and this is a theory, I think we can call it a theory, is that the sun makes electrons. Some electrons are small, some are larger, and they pair up by themselves, and those pairs make a motion of an infinity symbol when you send weak magnetic fields to them, or what do we call, like induction? Is it conduction? No, induction, I think. I think that's the right word. If we send a weak magnetic field, like a pulse, right, we push those electron pairs apart and you get voltage. That's where your voltage comes from. And then they come back together by themselves, and that's current. So we got amps and volts, which is what we need, right, as far as we understand, is what we need to charge a battery. Combine that with what we learned about G batteries, and I'm talking about G batteries in the beginning because I don't know what they're doing now. But in the beginning, G batteries was just, I think it's just gbatteries.com, or I don't know if it's .org or not. But they were, and they used to have all the information on the website. They were working with an artificial intelligence, AI generated algorithms that would charge a battery as fast as it could with extremely high voltage spikes, like several 100,000 volts. I asked the question, several 100,000 volts? Yes, that's the answer. Current, almost no current. Who else speaks that way? John Bedini, who worked with Tom Bearden, right? Thomas Bearden. Tom Bearden wrote a lot of books too. I recommend all those books. Tom Bearden made the motionless energy generator. Just words, motionless, right? It means we're not moving like we usually move motor generators. Obviously the universe is in motion. It's like moving. Everything's always moving, right? Tom Bearden said the universe, said particles, every particle, right, subatomic particle, is interacting with the ether, which is connected to the entire energetic universe, both material and non-material. Ether is just the energy in space. It's megawatts, or really infinity. It's infinite potential, meaning what number do you need? So this goes back to talking about the smallest charger, right? So when I think of charger, I am thinking, how small of a charger can I get? And I know Roger makes a small charger that's a little bit smaller than the V4 SC, and that's one thought. But I'm still thinking, like, in addition to that, I'm thinking, what is the smallest charger that I can use that I can put on the electric unicycle itself? I would like to install a charger on it that charges at 2 settings. One would be a low, or it could be 2 or 3 settings. Like 5 amps would be good, 10 amps, and 15 amps. Those, like, just switch it between those 3. Or a variable amperage would be good. But the smallest possible charger, right? Really, really small, because I want to mount it on the EUC itself. Right now I have the stock charger mounted in a bag right here. I don't know if you can see that bag to the right. And then I have my tire repair kit in the back right there. And I have that kit there because, not because I'm going to patch my tube. I don't have a tube. Someone just had a really bad crash. Oh my gosh. Their tube exploded. Okay, their tube popped. Their tube failed. And this is a really good rider. I mean, my understanding is the rider is very, very experienced, very good rider, very careful, very cautious. They were running a tube in their EUC. The tube popped, and they crashed really hard, and it was in front of a truck. Thank goodness the truck stopped. Anyway, I'm just glad they're okay. I think the person's okay. And my thoughts, like, I won't run a tube. First thing I do is pull the tube out. I got a flat my second day of riding my EUC, my links. And it was the same kind of thing. It didn't explode, but the tube failed. It pinched or something. I don't know what happened, but I know that the tire pressure was where it's supposed to be. Recommended tire pressure. The tube failed, and people go, oh, well, the tube wasn't, it was pinched in there, or it was... My thoughts are, I don't really need a reason for it that it happened. I just don't want a tube. Because when a tube's not in there, then to me, my tube is the tire. My tire look how much tougher a tire is than a tube. A tube's like soft, thin. Now, if someone makes a tube that is as strong as my tire and as thick, okay? And I don't care if that tube's Kevlar and carbon fiber. I mean, the fact that tubes are still like this thin, rubbery material or whatever it is, that I feel like I can almost tear with, like, just with my hands, or like anything could easily puncture it, like a nail could easily puncture it. I don't understand that. We're in the future. I grew up watching all these futuristic TV shows. I think Beyond Tomorrow is one of them. I watched all that stuff, and my brain just thinks about the potential of what we can have, and then it's everyone's job that's interested to create those products, and I call it what is it called? Supply and demand. Yeah, so you provide the product and people will demand it. But it can also be looked at maybe as create. What is it? I can't. My mind's not thinking of the idea. Because sometimes I think about, like, well, doesn't everyone want the best possible quality, right? But then some people say, oh, well, companies don't want to make the best product. They want to make a product that looks good, but breaks a lot so they can keep themselves in business, right? And then that's why everyone said Tesla would fail, because they make cars that don't break. Now, people on the internet will be like, oh, they break all the time. And then, well, yeah, they still go in for maintenance and things, but think about the maintenance. It's much different than a gasoline car. And someone was just complaining about the Cybertruck, about how you can't tow anything with it. Well, when I looked up on YouTube, I saw the Cybertruck towing, like, it was winning these competitions between tug-of-war pulls. Like, it had it up against a gasoline-powered truck. And they were both doing a tug-of-war, and the Tesla truck won, the Cybertruck. And then there was another one where the Cybertruck was connected to this really heavy machine that gets heavier and heavier, or if I say it that way, the weight just moves closer to the truck, which digs it into the ground more. The machine, it's a towing competition. But if you just look up Cybertruck towing competitions or something like that, I think it'll pull it up on YouTube, or use your own search words. But the thing is that the Cybertruck's really good. Now, I'm not saying that anything that's being said against it isn't true. I'm not saying that. But the list of positives to negatives, when I compare anything by Elon or anything by Tesla, anything of the Tesla automobiles compared to any gasoline variation or competitor, I don't see any competition whatsoever. The list is like exponentially greater in terms of like reliability, strength, improvement in design and engineering, electrical and mechanical engineering. There's an old article where Toyota was saying we're going to make cars that embarrass Toyota. Toyota said they're going to make cars. They were interviewed. If the article is true, it was saying that Toyota was going to embarrass Tesla. They were going to make like this most amazing electric vehicle. And then there's a time period where Tesla and Toyota were collaborating on, like, for example, I think it was called the was it the RAV4 or the Highlander? There was some kind of electric vehicle that they were collaborating on. And they say that the engineers of Tesla and the engineers of Toyota were arguing. And I thought to myself, why would Toyota argue with the masters of electric vehicles? And sure enough, when the vehicle came out, it has all these problems. And people could say that about Tesla, but Tesla, from what I can see, they're able to fix the problems they have. Now, some people are like, "Oh, the waiting lists for repairs are going to take a while," and all this. I'm just so happy that Tesla, like a company made, like what Elon calls the best vehicles in the world. I see them that way too, and I'm so happy about that, and I really would love to see automakers following the lines of Tesla or Elon, right? Elon's I think the owner, but I don't know if he's technically the owner. I think he is, but he started this whole thing, like that. So I associate his name with Tesla, regardless of what the proper words are to use to describe the positions. Elon was the one that said, "I'm going to make the best car in the world," and I think he did. And if you look up at any automaker, all the vehicles have trouble, right? They all have trouble. But the thing is that the electric vehicles use over 90% of the energy in the batteries to move the vehicle, right? And very little energy is left. Less than 10% is lost to heat from friction, right? But with a gasoline engine, it doesn't matter what vehicle it is. Anything that's been sold publicly and mass produced and sold, it wastes over 60% of the energy making heat. That's a scientific fact. It's not talked about that much, but it should be. And it is talked a lot about. You got to look for it, though. That's all. But I mean, I would think that would be like the headline news every single day. Remember when the news used to say, "Don't go outside today, it's a smog alert"? We used to have all these smog alerts where it's from the vehicles. The vehicles were polluting the air so bad you couldn't breathe. It was like they're like, "Don't run today, don't go outside." And I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, but inside I'm breathing the same air as I'm breathing outside. What can we do about the situation? Which led me to in part the things that I'm interested in and that I share on this channel, which is, I think of it as moving towards greater and greater degrees of efficiency. When I say efficiency, I mean wasting less, right? Less waste. That's what I'm talking about, less waste. Now, I need to do a lot more practice off-road because that's where I'm crashing right now. So I'm crashing down hills. Let me think about this. Yeah, okay. So let's go to the park and cruise around there, because that's going to get me more practice in the dirt, which I need practice in the dirt. I need it. I mean, I need to always practice on the street too. But where am I crashing, right? I'm crashing in the dirt. So thank goodness my rib cage is hurting less. It still hurts a lot. I ordered a Liet, or Elite, depending on who's pronouncing it. Leatt. I ordered the. I know I already said this, but I'm saying it again. I ordered the chest protector, which I'm not even sure that's the proper word for it. It's almost like a ribcage protection and the secondary is chest protection. I like that sound of the tire. It's the Elite 5.5. If you look up 5.5, now I've seen some different versions of what appears to be different versions of that. And I'm not sure if one's a HD or one's a Pro or one's a Pro HD. I don't know. But some of them have like a shirt that the chest protector is connected to, and you put the shirt on and you're wearing the chest protector. I feel like I almost fell right now because I almost went in the bush. I almost went into the bushes by accident. I have to be more careful. I prefer to wear the shirt separately myself. I want to choose the shirt I wear. I want to get those shirts. I want to buy those shirts that help. Okay, when I was hiking with the Sierra Club, when I used to go walking with them hiking, they have night hikes. I think a couple days a week in Griffith Park. They used to. I don't know if they still do, but I imagine they probably do. They were recommending not to wear cotton shirts because what happens is you sweat and the shirt stays wet, and that can cause, I think it's called hypothermia. I think that's the word, but double check for yourself. It's when it's cold out and you're sweating and then your clothing stays wet because it's not dissipating the moisture. Well, they make materials, I'm not sure what they are, what the materials are, but there's these thin shirts and long sleeve thin shirts that I don't know if they absorb the moisture and quickly dry somehow. And because they dry really fast, you're not cold very long, right? That's very important. So I'm looking for something like that. I know I found something already. I just need to look it up in my history because I saved it. What I do on my Amazon account is I put something in the basket. What I have found is when I save something on my Amazon account. Oh, this guy's sleeping right here. Wow, he needs a home. That guy needs a home right there. I really hope that there's a budget and a program, right? Because we need jobs, right? So this is a good job where they go looking for people that are sleeping on the street and give them a home, give them a room, at least a room to sleep in, right? And not like a prison, because I've seen people are saying that some of these places are built by people that design prisons. I don't understand why is that true? Like, I don't know if that's true or not, but I would think it needs to be more of like an art community, because art is to me, art is an expression of nature. It's the replication of nature, integrating nature with humanity, at least in a variation that I'm imagining right now. And I wouldn't want people that are homeless to feel like they're in a prison, right? I mean, even people in prison need rehabilitation, right? Even if someone says they can't be rehabilitated, if that's believed universally, it still would be nice that if people could be given at least hope, even if they can never be out in public again, right? Even if that's the case, just living a life of being educated and, I just feel like that's important for everyone. Like, it just makes sense. Now, I could be wrong about that, and I'm open to discussing it with people, but I'm just telling you that's the way I was taught, right? Because we just think about things oftentimes the way we were taught to think about them, but that can be updated. So I'm open to an update, continuous update. Like, I like to learn. I think I can go here. Yeah, we can go. It's nice and cool right now. Oh my goodness, I like this so much. I have to watch for cars. There could be a car coming through this alley at like 60. Imagine that. Happens all the time. I was just reading a story about two sisters, young kids, that were hit by a car, and the car hit them, ran the bicycle over. Luckily, I don't think it ran the kids over, but the kids went flying and then left. And the person was asking for any witnesses, and someone was saying that to go door to door in the area and ask people if they have any footage from that time period, because a lot of homes have camera systems. Like, there was a robbery down the street at the liquor store down the street from me, and the police went door to door, including our place, and asked for footage from that time period. And you know what they saw? They were able to put together the people what they did is the people that robbed the liquor store parked down the street, And because the police went door to door and got video footage of from every house, and it seems like every house had a camera, which I didn't even know that, because you don't see them all the time, right? And there's a lot of cameras that you don't see, they're like hidden. I've seen that too, where it'll just be like a hole drilled in the wall, and there'll be a camera like in the hole. You also have like doorknob cameras that are inside the doorknob. You don't see them. You don't even think it's a camera, right? But anyway, the police, because they did that thorough investigation, they were able to put together all the information that they needed to get a description and everything of the people. Okay, what's happening here? Let me see if I can get through here. I gotta see if I can get through here. Yep. So, right now I'm wearing a jacket underneath my jacket. So my outside jacket is for staying cool. It's even though it's a really thick material, it has like holes in it, little holes everywhere that lets the air in. But underneath that I have a regular jacket to stay warm. It's a thin, like almost like a windbreaker, but it does have some warmth in it. And that's the primary one keeping me warm right now. But the shirts that I want to buy are, they make them to keep you warm and stay dry, if I say it that way. That's the way I understand it. And they make some to keep you cool and to stay dry. So there's two different designs. I don't know what the difference is. I like how they do that. Like, how do they make it? Is it just thicker or what? I don't know. Okay, I'm putting my goggles on because I'm going faster now and it's cold. Camera's still going. I still can't believe this cord works. This cord lifted my body weight when it got stuck on a branch. I ducked down, but I turned my head to the right and the camera's on the helmet left side, and the cord grabbed this tree branch, which was really strong. Could probably hold like 1,000 pounds or more, or a couple thousand pounds. Grabbed the cord and literally lifted me up, like gently. It was all very slow motion. I was going very slow when it happened, and I'm like, okay, guess next time I gotta lean my head this way. I like tilt my head to the left instead of to the right. But James also told me not to have anything on my helmet. He's like, they tell people in the book, like in the motorcycle book, or the codes, I guess it's the code book or something, it says it doesn't recommend anything to be attached to the helmet, because then the helmet can't do its job. I know people put cameras on the very front, like right in front of the mouth area, but my thoughts right away were, I know every single time I fall, the front of my helmet smacks down into the ground. That's another reason I'm so glad that I wear a full-faced helmet. Now, I know if someone's wearing an open-face helmet, they could turn their head, but sometimes you don't have a chance to react, right? I mean, where crashes happen instantly, like in a fraction of a second. Now, I know people are like, oh, but time slows down because the brain speeds up, and 1 second becomes like 10 seconds, so you actually do have time to make decisions. I don't know if everyone experiences that the same way. Ooh, it's actually colder in this park right now. Wow. being up here right now reminds me of UFOs, because UFOs tend to go in areas like away from the city. That's what reports say. Some people have written that if you want to see UFOs, it's best to go to places where there's not real populated. Now, what's interesting about extraterrestrial life throughout the universe, and I'm sure they visit here all the time, there's like millions of reports of that. And some people say, oh, well, there's no evidence, not one drop of evidence. Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's like saying, I mean, we could say that about a lot of things, right? But they also say, like, to think, there's a lot of famous, intelligent people, highly educated, that say to think there's no extraterrestrial life anywhere else in the universe that's, let's just say more advanced than us, right? Way more. I mean, like hundreds of thousands of years. Why? How would that be? First of all, how could there be intelligent life like us? Well, some people say we're not intelligent, but I'm going to say we're intelligent. Okay, we have the capability of great intelligence. Yeah, I know we destroy ourselves for resources. It makes no sense. I know, I get it. I think that's being worked on, and I think we all want to stop fighting. It's critically important, because we're going to destroy ourselves as we keep as both sides, if I say it that way, both sides of the fight, the weapons just get exponentially more deadly and destructive, right? What was I talking about? Extraterrestrial life. The way that we can imagine extraterrestrial life being hundreds of thousands of years more developed than us is if we look at our solar system and look how old it is, and to know that it's a scientific fact. First of all, I'm going to give you a couple scientific facts right here that I've just read from scientists, that like retired NASA scientists and active scientists from NASA as well, that say that if you look up in the night sky, like let's say you go away from the city, right, and you look up in the sky and you see like just endless stars, right? Endless stars, seeming endless, right? Like trillions and trillions of stars. Some of those stars are actually entire galaxies with trillions and trillions of other stars in them, and also trillions of planets, and also trillions of Earth-like planets, right? Now we could break that down, and people can try to dismiss and discredit everything. That's always the case. The people can do that. That's fine. I'm not focusing on that. I'm focusing on the life out there in the universe. Like, we are out in the universe, right? If you believe that we exist, it is just as real that there's other life throughout the universe, right? We are the proof that there's life out there, because we're out there. Now, I've always understood that since I first began to think. And one of my first questions was, what's out there? Well, what do you think's out there? It's a mirror of us, but in endless variety, right? Endless different appearance, endless different ways of thinking, endless different ways of collaborating, endless different ways of working together, endless different ways of conflict resolution. And and what else? So if we imagine a solar system, which is not hard to imagine when the scientific fact remains from scientists and their discoveries, right? This is what taxes pay for this, right? Trillions and trillions of dollars over many, many years. We're paying for this information. People go, oh, it's not, no, it's not right. No, well, you could say that, but you're arguing with scientific fact. So, imagine a solar system 200,000 years older than ours, an Earth-like planet 200,000 years older than ours. And then if we speculate that planet developed life on it at a similar time that our planet developed life on it, right? In the big picture, right? If the universe is 14 billion years old, right? If the universe is 14 billion years old, if we use that line of thinking, then a couple 100,000 years is like nothing, right? It's like not even a second. But that's okay. Let's just look at this for a second. So if we have life, okay, now we've seen witnesses, and I'm talking about extremely credible. Doctors, lawyers, all the credible positions, including in the military, right? Imagine someone risking their job and losing their job because of what they shared. This happens throughout history, right? And then people in various different positions, both in military and in civilian life, if I say it that way, risk their whole careers, risk everything to share a story about their experience. Now, in my thoughts, if we think of the government, because people always go, oh, the government doesn't want us to know stuff, right? Now, I don't know, actually, myself, I don't know, because what I know is what I experience, right? Now, I imagine, okay, that's a deer. That's a big deer. That's a big one. I imagine that the position of a government, which is people, government's people, right? Here, like in America, it's we the people. Now, I'm not real great in all these subjects, but I'm told that it's we the people, and the government is just people, right? Including the president is just a person, which is why anyone that was born here, if I understand correctly, can be a president. Now, I imagine that the government's position would be to share, like, everything they learn that can help us as a community, right? As a new world community, if I say it that way. And then also a world community, right? And if we think of extraterrestrial life having achieved such advancements in the way they live with each other, the way they live among each other, especially to not fight, and especially in redefining, if we think of it that way, redefining what we think of and how we relate to what freedom is, right? Because to me, freedom is not just a creative, like intellectual, creative freedom, like where you have absolute freedom and creativity, and in engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, including space travel, right? Like right now, one of my thoughts about the word grounded, like when we think grounded, right? Grounded. I go, what does grounded mean? What are the origins of grounded? What does that mean, right? Because people get grounded when they're in trouble, right? And it's what I was reading was that it's grounding, like it means you can't fly. And I feel like Earth is grounded. I mean, flying within our atmosphere is one thing, but flying throughout the rest of the universe is another thing. And to know for a scientific absolute fact that there's been many spaceships designed by civilians, and there's evidence that the military was learning from civilians, like people like Thomas Townsend Brown, and also because I think Thomas Townsend Brown was working with the military to design these faster than light speed spaceships, right? And even though the public research, like if you just look on the internet, it doesn't lead to anything. But the fact is that when you study the technology, you know we're talking about faster than light speed of light. And the simplicity of it is incredible. I mean, an automobile just seems so much more complex than a faster than light speed spaceship, which is extremely simplistic, which means it's extremely reliable, right? And it cannot crash. It doesn't allow itself to impact with the material universe. It pushes away from it, and that's under control in a nuanced and subtle way. So and John Searle, who also, there's a book, John Searle has books, documentaries, teaching how he achieved anti-gravity, or we call it gravity drive, which is really just creating a gravitational field. You create a gravitational field to repel Earth's gravity field? You just spin magnets. So what has a magnetic spinning field in it? electric motors and electric generators. So then we could say, it's like, have you ever seen Star Trek, the original one, Star Trek? And like how Spock made that time machine. They were stuck in the past, and he made this time machine, and all of the scientific things he was doing by using regular materials. That were just available, you know, at that time period, which I think was the 60s. Or I forgot what time period he was stuck in. Because the series was made in the 60s, that series, the original Star Trek. And then he was stuck in the past, which I don't know if that was... Oh, wait a second. No. I think Star Trek they're from the future, and they went back to this old time period of Earth. Anyway, what I'm saying is, how could we take an electric motor that has magnets in it, if it does, because not all motors do. I think my 2016 Zero SR electric motorcycle, I think that has magnets in it. Oh, I knew I forgot something. I forgot my sunglasses. I can't believe I forgot my sunglasses. I could already see the sky lighting up. Oh well. Forgot my sunglasses. Darn. That tells me that I just need to keep a pair of sunglasses in my backpack at all times. Because if I don't have something prepared already, like, it's just so easy to forget something. I forgot my phone charger the other day. When we went on that long ride in Santa Barbara to... No, it was Ventura to Santa Barbara and back. I had forgotten my phone charger, and my phone died. I was so frustrated. And no one had a phone charger. I'm told that Apple changed the plug. They changed the plug on the iPhone to they're not using the lightning plug anymore. That's what I was told. They're using something else. I don't know what it's called. Is it USB-C? I don't know. Anyway, so because of that, everyone just had, I guess, the new phones, I guess, if they had an iPhone, and they could not charge. I could not charge my phone. Anyway, going back to Donald Lee Smith. The book is Magnetic Resonance Energy Crafting Systematic Index Book. Read it from read it from cover to cover. Replicate everything. Yes, you can win science projects with this. Don said that he built this little thing the size of a matchbox. Imagine a matchbox charger, like something the size of a matchbox, right? Imagine that. And I don't know if I'm allowed to be up here right now. We'll find out. Let's find out right now. Hi.
Too early, man. What are you doing here?
I'm riding around.
Can't be here for time, right?
What time is it?
Trespassing.
Sorry?
Okay, that's considered trespassing. You cannot be here when the park is closed.
You mean anywhere in the park?
Yes, sir. It's closed to the public.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you need to go.
Okay, so just go back?
You have to exit
Okay.
the park
All right, thanks. What time does the park open at?
until 5.
5 a.m.?
Well, sunset. It's sunrise. It's about 5:30.
Okay.
Once the light's on, then you're allowed to be on the park.
Okay, and how about closing time? When it's dark or sunset?
Sunset to sunrise.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know that. Well, no, that doesn't sound right because the Sierra Club hikes here at night, so that can't be true. I'm going to check into it. I'll check into it. I'll have to obviously check into it and print out some papers that support. Here's my thoughts. Sierra Club, unless this is a new law, Sierra Club obeys all laws, right? They're a highly organized organization. I'm calling it an organization. I think that's the right word. But they have night hikes. They meet after dark and they go hiking. That was a police vehicle, and she was saying, well, her first words were, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, riding around. She was saying that it's closed from sunset to sunrise. Well, I've seen a lot of people hiking up here at night, including the Sierra Club. They have organized hikes. And I doubt they're breaking the law, but who knows? Maybe I need to go on a hike again with them and ask them how do they deal with that. Now, where they hike, though, is up in trails, so vehicles can't even go there. And I've never seen the police hiking through the trails, but I still don't think the Sierra Club would be hiking if it was illegal. So I don't know if what that officer said was accurate or correct, but I'll look into it. I thought parks closed at 10 p.m., which is way after sunset. But anyway, right now it's, well, what time is it? It's 4:40, and that lady said, first she said 5 a.m., and then she said when the sun comes up. Well, it's kind of, the sky is lighting up right now. I don't know when they consider, when it's officially, I don't know when it's officially rise, or whatever. Are all these people waiting to get in? Wow. I think all those vehicles are waiting to get in. Interesting. They're all waiting at the gate. Very interesting, huh? Very curious about that. Wonder what time they open that gate at. I mean, I'm guessing they probably open it soon. So it's 4:40 right now, and all those vehicles waiting there, I'm guessing the gate's gonna open anytime. So it seems like technically I'm just a little bit early, just a little bit. It's interesting how different personalities are in police work. But I understand that police have a very difficult job, so even if they're not the most polite or welcoming, I think it is our job to be polite to them. I've seen people be very rude to police, but I just look at it like they're risking their lives every day in a way that we're not. And they're doing their job to protect the public and to protect people. So I feel like that deserves respect. That's just my thoughts, though. Oh, they fixed this corner. Look at this. This corner was terrible. It was I'm talking about like a 3 foot, 2 to 3 feet of elevation changes. I can't even imagine all the injuries that happened on that corner. I am surprised they fixed it. Like, it's been that way for, since I moved here many, many years ago. And they just fixed it. But really all it takes is a phone call, or a few phone calls. When enough people call and they keep calling, things usually get done. If one person calls and doesn't call back again, I think it's easily can just get pushed to the bottom of the list. I have to slow down. I just passed the driveway way too fast. See, a car can be pulling out of a driveway with their lights off, and they also can pull out fast. I've seen a car pull out, and he must have been doing 25 or 30 miles an hour down the driveway across the sidewalk. I'll never forget that. And we hear about accidents like that on the news and stuff where someone gets hit on the sidewalk, and it's like, well, how did that happen? Because we imagine that people are just being careful. But that guy that did that, he could have lost control of the vehicle. He could have accidentally, well, that branch was hanging low. I bet a lot of people hit their head on that just walking. Accidents happen. I mean, We have to anticipate that. They say assume that no one sees you. Like when you're riding a bicycle or electric unicycle or any kind of micromobility, we're told to ride like we're not seen. And that helps you to be safer, because if we make an assumption of, oh, we're seen, we could be seen, we have lights and everything, we're wearing bright colors or something. Well, because people, I think Dan the Fireman YouTube channel, I think he called it unintentional blindness. But double check that for yourself. Dan the Fireman teaches motorcycle safety, which can be applied to anyone that is on the roads, whatever they're using to get around. But people can look right at you and not see you. And it's hard to believe that. It's hard to imagine it. But it happens. And it's because we don't always see what's in front of us. Even if our eyes are looking right at it, it doesn't mean we're taking it in. We could have something else on our mind, right? I think that's what Dan the Fireman YouTube channel means by unintentional blindness. I think that's what he's talking about. I would absolutely love, I'm just going to share an idea with you, I keep thinking of this, to buy one of those solar cars. Have you ever seen the solar races? They have these solar races, the schools have them, where they build a car each year. And I'm told that they take the cars apart. Imagine building a car and then tearing it down and recycling the parts for the next project, or just recycling the parts for something else. But imagine if those cars could be given away as experimental status daily drivers. Because I would love to drive one of those cars on the streets. Just modify it, meaning putting all the lights on it. And if I could register it as an experimental status, meaning maybe I can only have one passenger in it and can't have more than 2 or 3 people, I don't know. Whatever those parameters are. I've read about this for airplanes. It's very common for airplanes to have an experimental licensing or registration, or I forgot what it's called. But I thought, how great would it be to have an experimental status solar car, which would be maybe for city use. Maybe it can't go on the highway, even though those solar cars achieve speeds of like 70 miles an hour in the races. And they have a small battery. And apparently they're defying the laws of physics, because people say you can't charge a battery while you're using it. But more accurately, it's just supposed to be not as efficient to do that, right? So it would be neat one way to increase the efficiency of the solar car right away is to have 2 battery packs. I know you're adding weight to the vehicle, but if you have 2 battery packs, and the battery pack that you're charging is just charging, and then your other battery pack is being used to power the vehicle, and then when the battery's full, let's say it's up to 80%, around 74 to 80%, because I was told just last night, someone likes to read a lot. His name's Tanner, someone I met. You probably saw him in the recent video. Oh, I don't know if you saw him in the video. I don't know if I was recording when he was talking. I don't think I was recording when he was talking. We met someone at the electric vehicle charging station when we were doing the ride from Santa Barbara to, it's from Ventura to Santa Barbara. Oh, what's happening here? Got some sprinklers going. And he was saying that a battery will charge really, really fast from up to 74% or up to 80%, and then slows down significantly, right? So he said ideally you would just charge up to like 74%, and then go to the next charging station, and just go from charging station to charging station as you travel your trip in your electric vehicle. But it can apply to whatever we're using. It could be electric bike, electric motorcycle, it could be anything. By the way, my favorite electric motorcycle right now is the I think it's called Energica. The Energica electric motorcycle. Okay, where am I? I'm gonna get over to the bike path. Across the street here. Energica makes an amazing electric motorcycle, and it's a high voltage system. And I was surprised that Zero's not following the footsteps of Energica, if I say it that way, because they're way ahead. To me, they're way ahead. Zero was doing well before. They're still doing good. It's a good entry-level motorcycle, and if you're just looking for something simple, I think it's good for that too. But Energica is complex because it has a cooling system and everything. But I just love that vehicle. I like that it's high voltage. I like everything about it. Okay. Just because the light's green doesn't mean someone won't run the light. I gotta watch for that. In my life, I've seen a lot of people run red lights. What appeared to be accidentally. Because the color of the light does not stop a 3,000-pound vehicle. I think I could go down here. Coyote. Another coyote over there. Should we follow the coyote? No. Okay, so going back to the charger, Don Smith Magnetic Resonance Energy Crafting Systematic Index. It's very strange that how do I think about this? Is this my turn? One of the things that's strange to me is this whole thing that's the paranoia, if I call it that, attached to free energy. I don't understand that. Like, what I mean is, I don't know what I mean. You know, it's just like when you go on the internet, first you hear everything's impossible, and then you go, well, if you achieve it, then you're not allowed to. Which makes no sense, right? But gotta make sure no one's coming over there. Okay, we'll take this bike path. I was really surprised that police officer said the park's closed. But if it's just a regular park, I guess parks do have hours, right? But I know a lot of people that hike up there every night, at nighttime, so I guess according to that officer, they're trespassing. I'm gonna talk to Sierra Club about that. And if we are allowed to hike at night, I'm gonna get a printout of that so I could have that with me. That way, you know, I'm following the rules. But I'll look into it. I would be very surprised if I find out that the Sierra Club is not supposed to be up there at nighttime and when they're hiking. I would be very surprised by that. I'll look into it. So Don Smith continued the work of Nikola Tesla, and I'm trying to think about the difference between radio technology and Don Smith's work. And I actually don't know if there is a difference. Because that's what Don was talking about. Like, Don, if you listen to his lectures and his workshops, well, there's a lot of moths and bugs here. There's a bike coming toward me. If you listen to his workshops, he's often talking about high frequency. what I don't know is, and maybe talking to you about this, sharing this with you will help me understand it. Because sometimes I find that I have an answer, if I call it that. It's not really an answer, but I'll find that I'll have a next step to something I'm trying to think about, like a thought experiment. I'll have that next step, but I just didn't put it together with something else that I knew, right? It's about putting information together in a way that coheres understanding. So Don Smith was working with oh, I do want to say about the paranoia stuff, because some people get upset. They go, well, Joseph, you know, people, the bad things have really happened. Well, bad things happen every day. People rob liquor stores. They rob all kinds of things. Bad things happen every day. What are you talking about? Like, what are you saying? Are you saying, like, what's one of my thoughts, the way that I was taught to think about it is, what are the thoughts that move us forward with our project? And if I call them paranoia thoughts, if those do not move the work forward, then I ask myself, how do I think about how to move the work forward? But I have talked to people that cannot seem to focus on that part. And they seem to just focus on, if I call it a justifying or justification of, well, this is why I don't have to think about, or this is what's interfering with my thinking about how to move toward greater degrees of efficiency, because I'm not allowed to. Like, someone could tell me that they're not allowed to. And they might say that no one's allowed to, right? They might say that. But then you look at kids doing their science fair projects with their free energy devices of various types, which is just taking environmental energy and translating it into usable energy to light a bulb or make heat or something, right? And you know, and that's why I think it's so important to not teach those messages of distraction, but rather encourage focus. And I do think that's critically important. And children and kids, they're going to do it anyway. That they're just going to do what they want to do. And that's like when Paul Pantone said this kid ran his engine on water, which really he was running on a hydrogen, right? With his GEAT reactor, GEAT fuel processor, that Paul helped him, guided him in making. And by the way, he didn't do anything special. He said that he just basically, there was the free plans and just answered questions and gave a minimal guidance on. I'm surprised these lights are working. Wow. Well, at least this part's real clean and the lights are on. A lot of the bike path doesn't have any light on it. They're doing a better job with the LA River bike path, that's for sure. The Orange Line bike path needs a lot of work, last I looked. So if you want a project, I would say call up the city for the Orange Line bike path. What's going to happen is you're going to find out, you might find out, I'm not discouraging you, but I'm just going to say you might be given a lot of phone numbers and it gets very confusing. But, you know, to me, it's the city's job to figure out how to maintain a bike path. But it seems like they can try to hand the work to the customer, the public, by saying, well, you got to call this number and you got to call that number, and then you leave all these messages and no one ever gets back to you. I mean, to me, when I called. But what I've been doing more recently is just talking to people on the bike path when I see maintenance people and just ask them, can you guys trim this high enough for a horse to go through? If you don't ask that, they'll just trim it in a very low height, which oftentimes will hit the head of someone walking by. And that's not safe, right? So what thoughts contribute to the clarity and function of an efficiency project, right? If I say it that way. This all appears brand new in the past couple of years. It's really nice. Look how nice that bridge is, and this whole intersection right here. Really great work. And I'm told this bike path does go to the beach, but I don't know how to get there. I've tried. Because it stops. I don't know where it picks up. So people have told me over the years, they keep telling me, oh, you can go to the beach from here. It goes all the way through. And I said, but where does it reconnect at? And when I put it on my map, it doesn't necessarily tell me. It wants me to take streets. It's not telling me how to get back on the bike path. I could try it again and see if it changed, if that's changed. I could also try to contact the map creators and see if I can find out, you know, is that even on the map, or how do I get it to show up? So Don Smith said he can make a matchbox size charger or power supply, if we call it that. It's something that you can get energy from, right? Because it was translating energy in space, right? Which, that's all we do, by the way, my understanding. We're translating the energy in space. Now some are separating it. They're going, well, we're using the energy and electrons that are created by the sun, and the electrons are getting their energy from the ether, right? Which I think ether physics. What does ether physics mean? I don't know. But I know that gravity waves, tachyon waves, virtual particle flux fields, and ether, infinite vacuum energy, infinite 0 point energy. Now some people say, well, zero, it says zero, so it's zero. And they go, oh, well, there's a description of why it's zero. It means when you freeze something, there's still a little bit of movement. Okay, some people just use the word 0 point energy. I don't know why they use those words, but all these words are interchanged in my research, you know. See if I can get by here. All these words of like 0 point energy, vacuum energy, virtual particle flux fields. This is the idea, is that we're translating energy in the environment, whether it be electrons getting their energy from the 0 point field or vacuum energy. The electrons are translating this energy. Don Smith wanted us to understand that what we're actually doing is we're just pushing these electrons apart, which gives us our voltage, if I recall correctly. And when they come back together, electron pairs, we're getting current, right? So amps, volts, amps, volts, amps, volts. And Don understood this so well that, and he taught this, he teaches this. I don't understand it myself. I don't really understand it. If I do, I don't know I do. And that's true. I really don't realize that I do. But if I talk about it, maybe I'll realize that I do know something that I didn't realize I know. That could happen. See, I don't know where to go now to get to the beach, right? I've gone each direction. I've gone that way. I've gone that way. I've looked on the maps, right? I've said go to beach, like go to the pier, go to the ocean. Those are neat designs right there. Those look like pods. Oh, they're faces. They look neat though. Wow, neat. Yeah, so anyway, going back to Don Smith, Donald Lee Smith, Magnetic Resonance Energy Crafting Systematic Index. Don Smith talked about using high frequency to translate energy in the environment into usable amps and volts to charge batteries. And I'm told by people that seem to know and do know more about Don Smith than I understand, say that I lost my train of thought. What was I saying with that? Oh, that he well, for one, that we need to know about ham radio. All those classes, the lectures, and all the things, when Don Smith is talking to the public in his videos, when he's talking about what he's doing, he's speaking to people with an assumption that they have knowledge. Well, I don't know if it's an assumption. He might directly say you have to know something about ham radio operation. And I don't feel that I have an understanding of ham radio operation. I guess I could go get my ham radio license and join like a club to build ham radios and experiment with them, so that I have some kind of foundation to understand like what Don may have been talking about or what he was talking about. But Don said that he had built a system that was the size of a matchbox that had I think he said hundreds of thousands of watts of power. Imagine that. So that makes me think I should be able to have something the size of a matchbox that should at least be able to charge my electric unicycle at like 10 amps or 15 amps. That should be pretty simple, because I only need 151.2 volts at 15 amps, which is the fastest that this Lynx electric unicycle can charge at without making modifications to it, right? Because I think some people have modified or bypassed the BMS. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. And that allowed them to charge maybe at a higher amperage. Because I think the battery the cells can handle a lot more power, I think, if I understand correctly. Because the cells are really good in the Lynx. Really good. For fast charging, and also for running, I was told, for running the battery really low. I've ridden this thing with almost nothing in it, like it was at 0%, and it's always got me back where I need to go. And it's the first transportation I've owned that could do that, electric, because everything else, when it's 0, it's done, or it'll turn off before it's 0. I've had things get close to 0 and stop, right? It's like 10%. I've had scooters that are at 10%, and I think I'm like, oh, I still got something, right? Turns off. Still at 10%. So the Lynx does really well with that. I also ride it in low battery mode. I think that's what it's called. And it lets me use like all the battery. I don't leave it dead though. I charge it right away. I would not want to leave a battery completely drained. I think that would be pretty bad for it. So but one of the things that my teacher used to tell me was that be careful who you look up to or looking up to people, because then you limit yourself to what they know. And he was saying this is like a really big flaw in human behavior, is we never want to limit ourselves to the knowledge of someone that tells us this is what can be done and what can't be done, right? So even people you look up to a lot, like let's say like someone I think of like Richard Feynman, who's a Nobel Prize winner and taught at Caltech for 37 years. Someone like John Wheeler, who taught at Princeton and spoke with Richard Feynman often about all this energy in space, right? Enough energy in a cubic centimeter of space to boil all the Earth's oceans. These gentlemen understood that, okay? Think about this. They say that 94% approximately, it's like more than 90% of the energy in space is unknown. They call it dark energy, they call it dark matter, and they go, well, it's gravity. It's gravity. We don't know where gravity comes from. What if gravity is electricity? Right? What if gravity is electricity? And what if that electricity comes from a black hole at the center of our galaxy? Right? Some of the things I've read, like Einstein said that material universe is an extension of that energy field. So the primary field, the primary field, the program, the operating system, is space itself. Now, have you ever heard that? Maybe I've heard it. Maybe this is common knowledge, and I just didn't catch it. Like, I didn't know how to relate to that. And even after I read it, I was like, what does that mean? What are the implications of that? What are the implications of the primary program that creates the material universe? Is space itself. How do we imagine that? How do we relate to that? That what we think of as empty space is an operating system of what we can think of as not just infinite information, but simultaneously infinite energy, or one and the same, right? So I think it's pretty exciting. I think it's interesting. And I would love to make a gravity drive system that it doesn't have to be an anti-gravity, like where I'm going up in the air, although that would be interesting. But what if I just used it to move myself forward and to stop myself? So I was using it as a gravity propulsion system, but to move me forward in space. So I'm still grounded, right? I'm still on the ground. We're not traveling through space yet, right? But we're using it to move forward. And that can be done. And I'm trying to imagine how it can be done. But you may do it first. And maybe you've already done it. I was invited to join a group recently. It was a job that was amazing, absolutely amazing. Oh my gosh, like the greatest thing I can imagine and more. But what do you do when someone says you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and then my question is, can I still talk about all my projects? And if something overlaps between the work that I would be doing and work that I'm doing on myself, my own personal projects, then I can't talk about it? I can't imagine that. And I know a lot of people live that way. And they also live where they're inventing something and they don't want to share anything about it. But what's interesting is, to me, is the people that have found a way, and this is all over YouTube actually, this whole idea of people, what I'm going to say right now, people are still teaching the theory of how something works that's not yet known, like in school maybe, or it is, but it's like kind of glossed over, like not glossed over, but it's kind of like overlooked, like it's like we walked right past a significant breakthrough, 50 years ago, for example, right? Don Smith would talk about this. He said in school, he was teaching these classes because he was asked to teach, and he was teaching these classes in school, like high school, or I don't know if it was high school or college. I think it was high school. But he was looking at these classes he was teaching, regular school, and he's like, this is a free energy system. It was like radio. He was teaching something with radio. One of the things that I was learning about radio was, no matter how many people tune into a signal, a station, it doesn't change, it doesn't affect, I think I'm saying this correctly. So imagine there's a radio station that's like 50,000 watts, right? My numbers might be totally off, but the idea is what's important right now. The idea. The let's say we have a 50,000 watt radio station. And one person tunes in, right? One person tunes into that station. Versus 100,000 people tune into the station, right? It doesn't change how far the signal goes of that 50,000 watt station. It doesn't affect it. So the station is sending out the signal into certain, what I'll call a certain radius. I think that's the right word. A certain distance out from the station. It's transmitting the signal a certain distance. But how many people tap into that free energy signal, if I call it that, is unlimited. And it doesn't affect the station at all. Now, if I recall correctly, Don talked about this, and that was one of the analogies and examples that he shared, if I recall correctly, right? Double check for yourself. And boy, this road is clean. I've never seen this clean. And I've never seen the trees trimmed back so well. They are taking good care of this path, whoever's maintaining it. I'm just guessing people are calling in, so I just want to thank everyone that made this happen. I've never seen this whole bike path this clean. This is the Alley River bike path. I've lived here for many years, and I've called throughout the years. I've called myself, but it takes I don't know. Maybe it just takes someone that's more demanding or insists that this be done soon. I don't know what it takes. I know that I've called many times and nothing was done. Yeah, this looks incredible. I could just tell you right now, that takes a lot of work. What's been done has been a lot of work. I don't remember seeing that fence before. That fence was always covered with bushes. It's trimmed all the way back. Amazing. I am just amazed right now. So they say it takes one person to change the world, and they say life needs every person. There's some bumps right here that need to be flattened out. So if you want to call on that, in this area right here, I don't know what the coordinates are. I could probably look that up though, can't I? Yeah, maps have coordinates on them. So if I give you those coordinates, then you could report that if you felt like calling that in and request that to be flattened out, where they would probably have to cut the roots underneath or something, because the tree roots will push the cement up. I'm not sure what they do, but they have solutions for this. So in a radio system, what we're getting is that the music, right? That's what we're tuning into, the music. And our individual radios have to have its own power system. But we're accessing that information. Right? I'm not sure how radios work exactly. I need to learn all that. Especially since Don Smith is openly sharing how all this stuff works, but you need a ham radio background to understand it. Now, I feel like I talked to someone that understood ham radio, and I feel like they were telling me that there's no free energy, there's nothing, all that stuff's not real, it's not true. And I guess it's possible to know ham radio, to know that technology and to know how to use it, and to not understand how Don Smith's systems work, right? To be that close right there. Like, it's that close, you know, you already have the knowledge. But, like, nope, not looking at that. You know, like, oh my goodness. I feel like it's hard to imagine that, but I know. They say that the answers are right in front of us our whole lives. I've heard that my whole life. The answer's right in front of us. Like, letting yourself be loved might be one, right? Or loving someone and letting yourself be loved. We might think, oh, I know what I want, like, I'm attracted to this and I know what love is, but what if you said, I don't know what love is, I think I do, but I'm open to learning what it is. It seems to me like being in a position of openness is important, because if we're closed off to everything, then what can we learn? That's like, what's the famous quote? The person that's aware of their ignorance is the wisest person, or it's a first step to wisdom, right? It's a big step towards wisdom. Right now I'm riding this electric unicycle and I'm thinking to myself, I can make a little mistake and be on the ground. And there was a man that's very good at riding electric unicycles, very good, and his tire popped. I started this video or a previous video talking about this, I think, if I recall correctly. His tube popped. I don't have a tube. I took the tube out. But, you know, the tube popped. He went flying. And a car luckily saw him because they could have hit him. I don't even want to say that. Like, it's just to think of that. Like, just seeing him fall was so... It frustrates me because I feel like, are we using the very best in technology to absolutely optimize and maximize safety? I don't feel like a tube is safe. That's just my feeling. And some people have tubes that are leaking and they're putting like slime in it or something. And slime doesn't seal a leak. Well, it kind of does. What it does is it has, like, I don't know, ground up materials in it that plug the hole. But it's not like a permanent really fix, right? Because it's just slowing down a leak is what it's doing. Because the materials in the slime or whatever we're using, whatever's being used is going into the hole where it's leaking air and plugging it. It's like blocking the hole from leaking, right? It blocks it. But it doesn't dry, really, right? I don't think it really dries. And it's not a long-term solution. Now, they say that plugging a tire, like a tubeless tire, with a tire plug is also not a long-term solution. But to me, I feel more safe with a tire plug where I'm plugging the tire. Like, let's say I get a nail in my tire, right? If I get a nail in my tire, I pull that nail out and I use like a tire plug. It'd be interesting if I went back up in Griffith Park, saw the same officer and said, you said after 5 it's open, right? And it's 5:22. But then she might say, well, I actually said when the sun comes up. But what time is that? You know? And I want to know time, like what's an hour? Because saying sunset and sunrise, that doesn't sound specific to me. Because that's kind of like, that changes every single day. Look at this car waiting for me. Very nice. I mean, I don't know if nice is the right word to say. Professional, courteous. I could say nice. That car was waiting for me right there. They were waiting for me. Yeah, I don't know what time the sun comes up right now. I could look though. It's not hard to look. I can just look it up. What time is sunrise? I think it literally changes every single day by a few minutes or something. At least. I don't know if it's like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 1 or 2 minutes. I'm not sure. But I think it changes every day. I feel a pressure on my helmet, like pushing on a corner of my head a little bit. I need to look at what's going on there. I'm not sure why the helmet's pushing like that, like a pressure. Let's see, if there's no cars on the street, I guess I could ride in the street, right? I'm not sure all the rules. I would like to register this vehicle, get a license plate for my EUC. I don't know if that's an option, or I'll look into it. I've seen license plates on some EUCs. I don't know if they're registering as a moped or what they're registering it as. Okay, so if Don Smith was using the example of when he talked about a radio station, I'm not even sure that was Don Smith saying that. I get information mixed up sometimes. I don't know if he was giving that analogy. But if he was, or even if I just say, why did my mind keep grabbing onto that? Let's see if there's something there. So if this radio station is sending out this information, and the more people that access that information doesn't change, it's almost like, how do I think of this? Let me think how to think of this. Oh, I don't know how to think about it, but that's something I'm thinking about. Now let's go back to the electrons, because I know Don Smith did talk about the electrons as like the amps and the volts of the electron, right? And of the electron pairs. Now my thoughts are, let's say we have something that's generating a high frequency, right? Generating a high frequency. And how do we change that? Let me think about this. Okay, let's say we have two coils. Let me think about this. We have two coils, and let's say one coil has a signal going to it, right? One coil has a signal going to it. Let's say one coil is made of like 24 gauge wire. Just making up a number right now. Or let's even use a Tesla coil. Let's just use a Tesla coil, right? Because Tesla coils they're very high frequency. So if I have a Tesla coil, and I have let me think about this. Then I take another, let's say I have two Tesla coils, okay? Here's one way of thinking about this. Two Tesla coils. And I take my second Tesla coil and put it close to the first coil. Or let's say I have two Tesla coils, but one fits within the other one. So one's smaller, and I put that inside the other one. So that's induction, right? Induction. Induction goes through plastic, it goes through things. It goes through cement, I think. Induction. Good thing I stopped, right? Car right there. So, induction. So I have, let's say I have the first coil's being powered with very low energy, right? And just a few watts, I think. Probably 10 watts or 15 watts, I don't know. Less than 100 watts. Now my second coil is pulsing in space. It's being pulsed by the first coil. It's in close proximity to that first Tesla coil, right? Now, I know Tesla coils have primaries and secondaries. I know that. But right now, I'm going to say I'm not using the coil to make sparks, and I'm not using it to do anything except pulse another coil, a second Tesla coil. And that second Tesla coil is being pulsed, right? It's being pulsed, pulses. It's being pulsed in space, which space is like a, imagine like I was going to say a bathtub of energy, but just imagine a sea of energy, an ocean of energy, right? That we exist in an ocean of energy. Now, we've all heard that sea of energy, ocean of energy. A lot of us are familiar with the quote from Richard Feynman saying that there's enough energy in a cubic centimeter of space to boil all the Earth's oceans, right? Now, that's taking the energy and making heat to boil, but it's telling you how much energy is there. Now, sadly, our automobiles are using most of the energy to make heat. That's why Richard Feynman's analogy was a good one, because we waste so much energy right now. And so we all drive heaters around. I'm riding an electric unicycle, which uses more than 90% of the energy in the batteries to move the electric unicycle. And electric vehicles do the same thing. They're very efficient. And that's one of the reasons I like electric so much, is the efficiency, right? But lost my train of thought. Let me try to go back to my train of thought. I was talking about... What was I talking about? Okay, what was I talking about? Energy. Richard Feynman talking about the sea of energy within which we exist, right? And there's a lot of books on this. You know what? Let's read some of those books. How's that sound? How would you like that? I'll read some books to you. We're going to talk about the material. So I'm not going to just read it to you. I'm going to talk about... Oh, they're redoing this. Interesting. I'm actually surprised they're redoing this, because to me, that's one of the smoothest and highest quality driveways I've seen. And they're just making it perfect again. I'm amazed by that. Because I don't recall there being any problem with that. There's so many streets that are in such bad condition. I cannot believe how many people told me growing up that the reason we never got cars that get 400 miles per gallon, because you could read about all the experiments about all that stuff where cars get, 80 miles per gallon, 100 miles per gallon, 200 miles per gallon, 400 miles per gallon, is because the taxes, something about the taxes or the fuel sales are required in order to pay for the roads to be maintained. And then I see how bad the roads are, and I think to myself, wow, imagine how much worse they would be. That's the only thought I could have. Because the money's being used for the roads, right? Because that's what they said. All these people said that. Not everybody, but a lot of people said that. I was talking to a retired fireman he was the chief fire person, like in charge of his fire department. And I asked him about, I'm like, how come these vapor systems... This is years ago, many years ago. I said, how come the vapor system never came out? Like I said, the oil companies were experimenting with them. Everybody knows they work. It was proven over and over and over. And even Shell Oil the engineers were, it's all documented. were testing these several 100-mile-per-gallon fuel systems, and he said, well, they couldn't move forward with it because the taxes, which this sounds really crazy. Like, I'm just like, I'm sorry to say that. I don't know. I don't want to say crazy. I just want to say, how can we say that we can't pollute less because then the roads will have to suffer? The roads won't be maintained. My thoughts are, you share these kind of challenges publicly, and then we create solutions together. Right? That's a thought, you know. Instead of just saying, nope, we can't do it because we can't afford it. So now we have all these electric vehicles running around. None of them are buying gas. So that kind of makes me think that whole thing is just so flawed. That kind of reasoning or thinking. I don't mean to say a negative, but I don't know what else to say, just for lacking better words. It's like when someone was telling me recently, they were talking to like the CEO of a major automaker, and they've talked to several of them, and the automakers were saying to them when they did this research that they're invested deeply in these old technologies, and it's the reason that they're not going to come out with any of those prototypes they've been developing for the past 100 years, because there's all kinds of extremely efficient concept vehicles that either don't use the fuel or can go hundreds of miles per gallon on a gallon of gas, and they are, we just can't come out with those because even though, you know, it's all perfected to an extreme degree, because they need to, essentially, my own paraphrasing of the way it was being explained to me would be that they're invested in waste. But that makes no sense, because I think the public wants efficiency and understands that you can make your own, you know, electric vehicle, or a lot of people convert electric vehicles themselves, and then you're getting those 400 miles per gallon equivalent, right? Then you're getting those extreme degrees of efficiency. So I think that's why so many people go electric. And then with electric, you can make your own fuel by having solar panels. And you literally, your roof is a fuel maker. Well, it's the sun, right? The sun, the energy from the sun. And Bill Nye, the science guy, who I loved his videos. And he teaches us, to me, one of his messages was, without saying it, is that maybe the people that love science the most may not have a background in science, because he studied something else in school. I don't think he was a science major, but look how much fun he had, and look how many people he inspired, because he loved what he did. And to me, he was very creative. But Bill Nye, the science guy, said we're using less than 1% of the energy from the sun. So what else do you think is there? Less than 1% of the energy we use. One of my favorite stories about companies, like there's a company that made these solar panels where NASA was like, that's impossible, you can't do it. And you know what they said when he did it? They didn't say anything. And I hear that a lot. Like, I hear people doing the impossible, and when they do it, the people that said they couldn't do it, they don't say anything. That happens a lot. And it just goes to show, like, it's not about proving someone wrong. Like, look, I did it, I proved you wrong. It's about just doing something because it's needed, right? Like, we need efficiency, and we have access to doing it. Like, Paul Pantone shared his water engine technology, and a lot of people run those engines on half fuel and half water, or many people have said they've run them just on hydrogen from water. which takes experimenting, right? You have to keep experimenting with that. But water is hydrogen, and who is it? Was it Jules Verne, the great writer, the great creative writer, that said a day will come that we'll be powering this planet with the energy in water. And the energy in water is, I think, the hydrogen, which I imagine is a bridge to those virtual particle flux fields, gravity waves, tachyon waves, right? All these words are interchangeable: gravity waves, tachyon waves, virtual particle flux field, zero point field, vacuum energy. I have a lot of books on the energy in space, and these words are used interchangeably. So one of my thoughts about the stock charger that came with the Lynx is, can I modify it to be a 10 amp charger or a 15 amp charger? And also, can I make it smaller? Those are a couple thoughts that I have about it. But it may be easier just to buy another charger. I am also interested in taking some courses and possibly learning to build my own charger. Right? Hi. So that's a possibility too. I mean, but the thing is like, can I take a class where I could start doing those kind of experiments, or would I be, is there prerequisites, right? Like several years of theory before getting to the hands-on, right? Before getting to the hands-on building. Or just hire someone that already knows how to do electrical engineering to build, you know, the world's smallest charger. Which may just be a Roger charger that already may be done. Roger EUC, right? The Roger charger. Because he makes these small chargers that are really powerful. Wow, my helmet is so uncomfortable right now. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on with this. I might have to take it off. If this is how this helmet feels, I might have to change helmets. Because this helmet's like really hurting my head. On the top, or like on the top right side, it feels like something's pushing into my head really hard. Which doesn't make any sense, because I don't remember feeling that before. And just a couple weeks ago, I started to feel this pain. And it's strong. It's like a really strong pain. Good thing I stopped right there again. You see that car? So that would be the assumption that there's always a car coming. That's another good assumption. So assumption one being, because we're told not to assume, right? But these are good assumptions. A good assumption is we can't be seen. No one sees us. Another good assumption is there's always a car coming. Like a blind corner, anywhere you can't see, there's a car there. And they're coming fast. That's a good assumption because then you're ready for it. That way if they are coming, we're ready for it, right? Now I'm saying that I can still make mistakes. But I'm going to do my best to minimize mistakes and minimize injury. That's why I practice so much. I was sharing this idea about how I practice a lot. Hi. So that I could minimize injury. And the person said, oh, that's a good one. I'm going to tell my wife that. Because he wants to ride a lot. And I'm thinking to myself, but it's the truth. I practice every day so that I won't get hurt, to lower my chances of getting hurt. I wasn't making a joke. I was totally serious. I mean, you can call it a joke, but I'm totally serious about it. I think we're ready for skyways. We could have high-speed skyways where it's an enclosed path and a one-way lane. So on one side of the road you have a skyway going that way, like a certain direction, and on the other side of the road you have a skyway going the other direction. Just an idea. What's up? How's it going?
What's going on, man?
You ride with the group?
Yeah, actually, dude, hold on. Oh, wait,
Oh shit. I stopped right in the water. Which EUC is that? That's a, don't tell me.
I have earplugs in, hold on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, the wind noise gets so bad when I'm going fast.
Yeah, I know.
Ugh.
You look familiar to me.
Yeah, dude, I'm the guy who freaking, dude, I knew it. That one random day, I just pulled up, I was like, dude, I have a wheel too, I have it in my trunk.
Was that down there in the valley?
Yeah, over down there in Barbuda.
And you said you ride with, don't tell me, you ride with, yeah, that was you?
Yeah.
What's up?
What's going on, man?
I did go ride with some of them. Do you guys have like a Tails Up on Thursday or something?
Honestly.
No, that's something else.
Okay, dude, are you based out here? Dude, come to Intro to Speed.
Okay, when?
Wait, you know what, dude, add me on, Insta.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, I literally was like, you know what, I'm gonna do a ride to,